The following is a Comfortably Zoned Radio Network production.
We are back. A's Baseball, past, present, and future. I am Ralph Tyko with the Comfortably Zoned Radio Network. We are replete with sponsor. First sponsor that officially we have at Comfortably Zoned Radio Network. It's Talie's Gallery of Creatures and Dark Whimsies. More about Talie and her gallery and creatures and dark whimsies later. But first, let me introduce the host and hostess of A's Baseball on Comfortably Zoned Radio Network. It is, in fact, Nancy Finley. Mm-hmm. Nancy, how are you?
I'm great, thank you.
Yeah, a great introduction. I ought to be Nancy, but I got it right eventually, Nancy
yes.
Finley, and Jerry Feitelberg.
Oh, thank you, Ralph. It's a pleasure to be here, and guess what's a week from today? Opening day.
Yeah.
Wow. You know, it's opening day, and it's 20 degrees and stormy back east right now.
Yeah.
All of us are transplants, the three of us.
How do they handle
Nancy
that?
from the Midwest. The Midwest has suffered cruelly this year. Jerry and I are from the Northeast, me, New York, Jerry, Boston, and that region of the country has been hit with since they've been keeping records, record-breaking storms and number of inches and all that stuff.
It's a rarity, Ralph. Usually in New England, when I lived in Boston, we would look forward to St. Patrick's Day. By that time, spring was almost here. The weather had warmed up a little bit, and if it snowed, it wouldn't last. This year, the month of March, they've had 4 northeasters. Normally, you get, 1 or 2 in February, and by near the end of March, the snow is beginning to melt, and some of the stadiums might be ready. What they did with the early starts for the Northeast and Midwest teams, they used to have them come out to the warm weather cities to start, so they could get play, so they wouldn't have the postponements. But they're starting 2 weeks early, and I think they'll have a lot of postponements on the East Coast. They're going to have rain in the springtime, and the weather is very, very difficult this time of year.
Yeah.
Opening day, maybe snow back there?
That's happened. I remember mid-April it snowed, but it doesn't last long. But in March it might last long. And I saw a picture in some shopping center. They had an SUV parked, and the snow was piled up maybe 30 feet high. They just had so much snow in the last month. Unbelievable.
Yeah, I hesitate to think what my life would be like if I lived it back east, where every winter it's something. This was especially horrible, but it ain't great on the best of times, and summers are humid. I just couldn't do it. Fortunately, almost serendipitously, I was stationed in California in the Air Force and stayed out here when I got out. Jerry's a transplant, Nancy's a transplant. We're lucky. We're sitting here. It's approaching 70. The sun is shining, and spring is right around the corner.
Is it always humid back? Is it more humid close to the Atlantic? Or?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. From Chicago all the way, Minneapolis, all the way to the East Coast, it gets humid. And we'd have thunder showers at 4 o'clock in the afternoon virtually every day because it was so humid. And if they they knew if they had a ball game going, it rained, they just put the tarp out, waited 20 minutes, and the thunderstorm's over, and roll up the tarp and play the game again.
Yeah.
And what's interesting, we had a player with the A's, Johnny Damon, I think he played for the A's in 2000, 2001. And when he went to Boston, he said he didn't like playing in Oakland because he couldn't work up a sweat like he did when he was with the Kansas City Royals and then when he was with the Red Sox and Yankees, because you don't sweat as much when you don't have that high humidity.
Right. Especially in the cold fog coming in. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. A lot of the players that came to Oakland, and I was thinking of Matt Holliday when he was with the A's. He was here for 3 months, if that, 2.5 months. He complained bitterly that when he hit the ball, it would die, and it wouldn't go out of the ballpark at night. That cold air keeps the ball from going, and, when we have a warm day, the ball flies out of the ballpark in Oakland, but not during the night games.
It can be bitter cold.
Oh yeah. I wonder what Charlie thought when he moved the club out from humid Kansas City to Oakland, and it was a totally different situation playing in the Oakland Coliseum.
He grew, and he had.
Well, I'm just thinking, Canseco and McGuire didn't seem to have too much trouble hitting the ball out.
Well, McGuire hit 49 as a rookie. He set a rookie record. It was just broken last year by Aaron Judge, who had 52.
Weren't the balls different too? I mean, I heard rumors that the balls were maybe bouncier or something. I don't know.
Well, that's what they say, but there's been really no evidence that the balls are tightly wound or different than they were, 30 years ago, 40 years ago.
I saw an article on that once. So I wonder.
Well, there is evidence that the seams are more tightly wound, and they can't work the seams as much.
That's all
as Skip.
Well, let's talk about your podcast with Skip Lockwood today.
Yeah.
We learned something today.
His first podcast on the Comfortably Zoned Radio Network.
What did you learn?
Well, Jerry, tell us what we learned, Jer.
Well, we learned that when a pitcher rubs up the ball, I always thought that the guy was just rubbing the sheen off the ball to get a better grip on it and that type of thing. What Skip was saying was that when he was rubbing up the ball, he was working on the seam to loosen it up so he could make the ball do something when it left his hand. And, we always thought the pitcher would do that to relax for a moment, rub up the ball. It was a new baseball. And, but no, he said he was working the seams. He talked about throwing a two-seamer and a four-seamer, or a cross-seamer and a four-seamer, whatever it was.
The strength of his hands.
Yeah.
In order to move the seams and work the seams, think about it. This is a tightly knit ball. Mm-hmm. You and I, Jerry, cannot move the seams if we got a butter knife to help us.
For sure.
Right? And he was talking about the intensity that he'd put into just rubbing up that ball and just the gripping it and what have you. He's inordinately forthcoming in what it's like to play the game. He was
highly. You want to go get one of my balls I have.
Yeah, well, the other question that came into mind, I was wondering if the pitching coach taught him that, or did he learn it from another player, another pitcher?
He did indeed. He learned it. He learned the intensity of it. I don't think he talked specifically about the seams in the ball in relationship to a coach or another player, but we got to talking, and how much Tom Seaver had an effect on him, his intensity and what have you, how much Catfish Hunter had an effect on him.
He talked about Catfish, and he said that Catfish, you could go out there, and 2 hours later the game would be over because he threw strikes. Mm-hmm. And and he got the way his motion was. He came down. He got it. I think he said he got his foot in the right groove and got the ball into the strike zone.
Quickly, and he had the defense on their toes.
Right, I remember that.
Very, very important that you don't have a plotter out there that puts everybody to sleep.
I'm remembering the double headers. Wow.
Absolutely.
I don't know how they went that long.
Well, if you go by the old days, you go to a double header, and if the game lasted 2 hours and 10 minutes, you'd have a half-hour break, and they'd do the next one. It'd be so you'd be at the ballpark 5 hours, 5.5 hours. Now one game.
Glad to be there, and you were glad to be there.
Yeah.
That's another thing.
What about if the first game went into extra innings?
Nancy,
yes.
I worked the game that the A's played the Angels. It went 19 innings, 6 hours and 23 minutes.
Oh my gosh.
It was 1:45 when Brandon Moss hit the home run to win the game, a walk-off home run.
I heard about that.
The next night I was down in the clubhouse, and I asked Brandon, I said, how did you feel when you hit the home run? He said, my arms were so tired. He said, I was so tired, but I was able to muster up just enough strength to hit the ball out. I said,
game over.
I said, thank you so much. It was 20 minutes to 2. And so I hadn't finished writing my story. And at the end of the story, I said, there are no game notes tonight. I'm too tired, and I'm going home.
Oh, yes. Amen. Oh, and starving probably.
Oh, it was a long game. I think they ran out of hot dogs up in the press box.
Oh, yeah.
We have the finest hot dogs known to mankind in the press box to go along with most wonderful popcorn. That's what the press gets every night.
See, we would have like a restaurant owner saying, okay, after the game, I'm going to have the best feast ready for you. And so we're waiting. And and then Dad would say, no, don't eat because we have this thing to go to. Oh, my God. At that point, you just want it to be over. You just want the game over, and it keeps going.
Oh, and then they played another 19-hour game with the Yankees there later in the season. But that was a day game.
Oh, my!
Did you work that game as well?
Yes, I did.
Oh.
At least a day game. Well, did it end up at the night during the darkness, or was it still light out when the game was over?
With the A's game, or the Yankee game?
The Yankee one.
It was still light.
Oh.
It started at 12:30. It was getaway day. Okay. So even if it went 5 hours or 6, it was 5:30, 6 o'clock. It wasn't too bad.
That's true.
Yeah, so that wasn't bad at all. But then that night game was a long one. And anytime you have a night game and it goes extra innings, we all groan. How long's it going to be tonight?
Yeah, we almost had that with the doubleheader where the first one went extra, and then it looked like the second one might. But thank goodness it didn't.
Well, the toughest doubleheader that I ever went to was in '87 when the A's played the Minnesota Twins in a doubleheader. And you have to remember, in '87, the A's were getting good. They had Canseco had come up in '86, McGuire in '87. They were competitive, and they were playing the Twins. Mm-hmm. And the Twins were competitive. They had Frank Viola was pitched one game, and I think Tanana pitched the other game. You know what the Twins did to the A's in the doubleheader?
What?
Shut them out twice. 2 shutouts. I think one game was 11-0, the other one was 7-0.
I remember Tanana was interviewed, and he said the women in Oakland were ugly.
Shame on him.
I know. Oh, yeah, we were just really angry about that.
I think that was a commercial for an eye doctor, and then he went to the eye doctor. He was okay.
Oh, yeah, no, he was my favorite.
Anyway, let's talk a little spring training. Last week is spring training, 1 week away from opening day, and we got some bad news. When I say we, you and Nancy got some bad news. You're the real A's fan. I'm the A's apologist. How about that? But although I'm coming into the family, my God, I have more memorabilia from Nancy of what's gone down in their history.
Oh, there's more.
It's been terrific.
I didn't want to inundate you just all at once.
Oh, okay. Well, slowly but sure.
Yes.
I'm coming around. I'll tell you what. I took over being an apologist for the A's back in, it's got to be about 8 years ago now, when my lifelong friend and old camp buddy, who was the A's spring training doctor, Dr. Pearson, and we were buds. I'd go down to where he lived in Mesa, which was right across from the A's complex, and he was such an A's fan. He died prematurely, as most of us do, whatever age. He died early, and I kind of took over the A's for him. As much as a Mets fan can take over the A's with the memory of 1973 fresh in my head.
Yeah.
So here I go. It's your bad news, Mr. Cartone, as I call him.
Yeah, Jarrell had he's out for the season. He had a complaint about soreness in his elbow, and he had two opinions, and they decided to do the Tommy John surgery, and he had it a couple of days ago. Apparently it went well, and he's back in Oakland starting his rehab, and he should be coming back from it. Hopefully it'll be better than ever next season. And when I was with the A's, they had a young pitcher by the name of Steve Carsey who had it done, and he didn't do too well coming back.
Steve Carsey, an old buddy of mine from the minors, who went to the same YMCA as Marty Rose and I in
Yeah, well, Steve had a tough time with it, and it never came back. Now, the other bad news was the rookie, and I don't know if he's a rookie yet, but their number one draft choice a couple of years ago was A.J. Pook, the tall left-hander, 6'7", lefty, and he was having a good spring training, and the A's were not going to bring him up with the club. I think if they hold him down in the minor leagues for 2 weeks, they would get another year control of him for another year. So he wasn't going to start with the club anyway, but he's reported to have soreness in his biceps. Now, I don't know if that's serious or not. I don't know. He might be able to just put a little muscle rub on it or something, but we'll see what happens. He would be if he's got anything going for him, he'd be a great addition to the staff. But remember, he's never pitched above AA ball, and this would be his first year in AAA. So I think they could shut him down for a couple of weeks, let him heal, and see how he comes back from the injury. And hopefully he'll be okay, but I expect him to be up with the big club sometime this year.
What do you think of
Cotton is a devastating blow to their pitching staff. I mean, not what he did last year. It's what he by all rights could have been expected to come into his own this year. And it's not like they're deep.
Well, he's 26 years old, and he'd be coming right into his prime. Last year he was 9-10. He had an earned run average of over 5, so he was very inconsistent. You'd get a good game out of him, a bad game out of it. And I think he was shut down for a while, too, on the DL last year. But they're going to just have to wait, and they're going to have to go with Kendall Graveman. They're going to have to go with Sean Manaea, Paul Blackburn, Daniel Megden, and either I can't think of the other fellow that they're going with. Might be can't think of his name, but we'll see. And
is there anybody out there that's a free agent maybe that
well, the last free agent was Alex Cobb, and he got signed.
Okay.
But he signed with Baltimore yesterday, 4-year deal. So he's not available. And So I don't think that I don't
to pick somebody to have them pick somebody up at cut down time, because there's a lot of guys on the bubble, out of options, this, that, and the other thing.
Sure.
They'll add somebody, but
well, they also got this guy. They got this guy James Kaprielian that they picked up from the Yankees in the trade for Sonny Gray. He should be recovered from his Tommy John surgery, and he might be available. I think he's a lefty too. So
that's who you would go. Is that who you'd recommend?
I don't know. They have to probably start him off in the minor leagues and see what's cooking, if anything's going with him. I forgot the fifth guy would be Andrew Triggs. Triggs was pitching well until he hurt his hip, and he was out for most of the season. So their rotation would be Graveman, Minaya, Blackburn, Mengden, Triggs, maybe Gossett, but I wasn't sold on Gossett. I think he was 4-11 last year, and his fastball didn't go over 90 miles an hour, and he got lit up quite a bit, gave up a lot of home runs. So, but you know, the starting rotation with the A's is iffy. There's a lot of ifs there. Yeah. You know, if Graveman can find his game and if he can hold up for the whole season, can Minaya be more consistent? Blackburn pitched well, but he got injured. Mengden, he corrected a flaw in his delivery. You know, he's got that herky-jerky delivery, and then he winds up, and he corrected that, and he had a good September. But I also get a little leery about September because they have so many call-ups. Maybe you're playing against AAA players, so you have to take September with a grain of salt sometimes. But you know, we'll see what happens. He's in the rotation now.
Well, let me quote an old Branch Rickey ism. Don't fall in love in the spring or in September.
Yeah, there you go.
You're not getting a good look at what these guys are really about for one reason or another. They could be coming in fresh, playing against guys who are bushed in September.
Yeah.
Or they could, in March, they could be playing against guys who have jobs already, and they're just playing to get in the groove, to get into shape a little bit, in baseball shape, that kind of thing.
Sure.
And they're out hustling and, you know, whatever, and you play harder when you're hungry. That's the thing.
Yes.
So
yes.
Especially when you're trying to get a job with a club. If you're auditioning in September for a club, you want to do real well because they want to come back the following year. Absolutely.
Right. And you're also, in this day and age, if you are auditioning for your own club, you're also auditioning for 29 other clubs as well. Because everybody is scouted, every game is filmed and gone over. And this
question, with the Internet, does that affect scouting now? You know, YouTube, you can watch these players. And
Absolutely does. Absolutely does. And the problem is it doesn't always affect it positively.
Right.
Because, as Jerry and I have talked about, you can analytic the thing to death. But it's what's inside a kid's heart and personality and drive and all that stuff.
You can't measure that. There's no empirical way to measure that. There's another pitcher the A's just picked up, and I forgot to mention him. He was a starter with the A's before, and that's Trevor Cahill. And they signed Brett Anderson to a minor league contract. Brett Anderson.
I think, and Brett, as soon as he signed the contract, he sprained his hand signing.
Already? What took him so long?
He on the DL for 15 days just from signing the contract.
Oh, he sprained. He's left-handed, so he was signing his contract and he sprained his ankle.
Jerry, I'm
wrist.
kidding. I'm just kidding.
Oh, you're kidding, huh? But that's his history.
Well, so many times.
But that's his history. He's always hurt. He had tremendous amount of potential. And he bounced. He never made it with the A's. He was with the Dodgers, I think, last year, or the Cubs, or one of them. I know Cahill won a ring with the Cubs as a reliever, and Cahill had a lot more promise. And I think he could be the fifth man in the rotation rather than Triggs or Blackburn. Or he could be a long reliever, too.
He's healthy, he's terrific, and gets hurt a lot. I don't know. They were early guys. Now it's a lot of pitchers getting hurt on a regular basis.
Am I hearing about more injuries now? Is it?
No, the only two were Cotton, the one to Cotton and the one to Pook. Ryan Dell, who's a reliever, he's going to be on the DL to start the season. He has a shoulder injury, and shoulder injuries can be devastating to a pitcher. If you go back to Sean Doolittle a couple of years ago, when he hurt his shoulder, they brought him back too soon, and then he injured it again, and he was out even longer. So you have to be careful with shoulder injuries. So I'm sure they want to get him healthy. And you got to have relievers because that's the way the game is played today. They're talking about starters going 5 innings, and that's it. And because teams have a 6th inning guy, a 7th inning guy, an 8th inning guy, and a closer.
Right.
It's unbelievable the way they play the game today. Robin Roberts and Warren Spahn are spinning in their graves because they would make 40 starts and they'd finish 60 or 70% of those games. They go 9 innings. Juan Marichal. You remember the game that he had?
Marichal and Spahn, that book that was written about their famous game. They must do 20 innings each?
16 innings. They threw about 400 pitches, and the manager of the Giants wanted to take Marichal out. And he looked out and he said, that man out there pitching against me is 42 years old. You're not taking me out of the game. I would never live it down. And he did. He stayed in the game, and he won 1-0.
Yeah,
now, what if
that
a
was
pitcher wants
one of the
to
all-time great Giant games, as a matter of fact.
Yeah. Is it an absolute? A pitcher has to leave after so many innings. What if he feels like he can keep going?
Well, the managers have to make the decisions, but so many guys are going just 5 and 6 innings now. If you get a guy go 7 innings, you say, "Wow, what a performance!" Well, that's a 7-inning game. They're not going to go 9 innings.
Well,
and they got the pitch count. They got the pitch count. And
statistically, a pitcher does much more poorly in the third time through the lineup.
And that's usually the sixth inning.
Right.
That's when they get to them. The 6th inning and the 8th innings, when in the old days when they went 9 innings, they either get to them in the 6th inning or 8th inning. Because they start to tire. And, of course, now the pitchers come out. When we're talking about those guys back in the 50s and 60s, they knew how to pitch. They weren't just throwers. And there's a difference between a thrower and a pitcher. You can have a guy come out and throw 100 miles an hour, but he's not a pitcher. He just throws heat. And these guys can hit 100-mile-an-hour fastballs now. And if the ball doesn't move, like they had with, I forgot one of the A's had a guy up there. He was great. Ball went 100 miles an hour, but it was straight, and the guys could hit it. But the guys that were in the big leagues way back when, they would move the ball around, up, down, in, out. They would pace themselves. They knew when to throw harder, and they had a variety of pitchers.
Change of speeds was very important. Your off speed, as opposed. You throw 100, but if you don't have an off speed and they know it's coming, you might as well throw 90 with a good off speed instead and get more batters out. It is a craft. It's lost to that. The only pitchers they scouts sign nowadays, are 6'4" who come up and throw heat. Guys like Whitey Ford, Chance, even Maddox, for instance, they probably couldn't get signed today, given the way things are.
Maddox was magnificent.
And strike out. They want to see on the scoreboard that the guy threw 100.
Yeah,
wow.
A guy like Maddox, he painted the corners.
Right.
And he just moved the ball in and out, up and down. They knew the batter's weaknesses, and he could put the ball in those spots.
Those curveballs, and I remember.
Oh yeah.
that.
Oh yeah, you talk about Whitey Ford. I don't think he was a fastball pitcher. He had a fastball, but he was crafty. Eddie Lopat. We talked about Eddie Lopat in the past. I don't think he threw a ball over 75 miles an hour.
You watch how they held their hands and how they let it go, and it was beautiful. Mm-hmm.
And you had the knuckleballers like Hoyt Wilhelm, Phil Necro, Joe Necro, and Tim Wakefield. Those were throwing a knuckleball is a difficult pitch because you don't know where it's going to go, but neither does the batter. And the knuckleballers make these guys look silly because it's coming in. When you're set up to hit a ball at 9,500 miles an hour, you got your swing down, and here a ball comes up, and you don't know when it's going to get to home plate, and then it moves, and you look foolish. But
that was an art. That was an
art. Yeah.
I missed that.
So everyone gets excited, like Aldous Chapman, 103 miles an hour. Yeah, he throws the ball by him, but at some point he's going to slow down, and they're going to be able to hit him. They'll figure it out.
Mm-hmm. Okay, Jerry. You took the air out of the predictions a little bit for me. Not you, but the injuries have. If you had to give me an over and under, what would it be? What would be the best over and under you can pick for how many wins they're going to get this year?
Well, let's be optimistic. I'd like to think that they're going to be, I'm going to say maybe 82 and 80. That's 162. 2 games over 500.
Well, you are an optimist, but, when can you best be an optimist but spring?
Yeah, it's great. All the teams, what are the teams on opening day? Everyone's in first place, 0-0.
Absolutely.
Right. Everyone has an A+.
Yeah.
Like school.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And, we've gone all morning in this country. I have to commend the country. There has not been one school shooting all morning.
So far.
So,
God.
things are, if it were a graph, would this be a tremendous, spike?
Bombing, yeah.
This would be tremendous. So, I'm proud of you, country. Keep it up. Another few hours, you can break a record for February. Not February anymore, but
March.
March, excuse me.
What a year so far, yeah.
I'm just appalled and depressed by the state of things in this country. Got to divert. I got to just vent that for one quick second. We'll get back to baseball. Okay. Now let's get back to part 2 of what I wanted to discuss on this show. I want to, on behalf of the network and the podcast show itself, put a campaign out to help get Charlie O. Finley elected to the Hall of Fame in Cooperstown, New York.
Thank you. And Carl.
Well, we'll second that.
And Carl in the executive.
And I said,
yes.
Pardon me?
And Dad, Carl in the executive category. They do,
Well, both. Let's start with getting Charlie in. We'll do it.
Charlie's been nominated.
Much like the Wayner brothers. How about that? We'll
Sounds
get
good.
one Wayner brother in, and then we'll get the other cousin in this case.
Okay.
Well, to get elected, Charlie would probably have to go through the Veterans Committee, and I don't know if they meet every year or however it does. And when they do, they have specific categories, I think, to get the people into the Hall of Fame.
They do.
So does the same.
You have a friend.
Executive, I don't know if it holds true with executives.
Now,
well, Ralph, you have a friend, Bruce Marcuson, and he's up there with the Hall of Fame. Maybe you could contact him and see what we have to do to get Charlie in.
Bruce is
I will do so.
Bruce
Thank you for that tip. I didn't put two and two together. Bruce is a supporter of the show.
Ralph, you know Bruce?
My Facebook friend, and that may help.
Bruce invited me to be part of their speaker series last year.
Really? Nice.
Then you have an inroad with him as well.
Yes.
And let's get him on the show. and start with that. How about that?
Good guy. Now, he was, when I was there, he was on vacation, but that's okay. No, good person. And by the way, the reason I wondered about Dad first is because Charlie's been nominated twice. Now, with Dad, there really isn't anything you can say not to bring him in about. He qualifies for everything they want. So I just wondered if that would be a backdoor way of getting Charlie in, because it would be like, okay, if Carl's in, Charlie has to be in. But Charlie's been nominated twice. And so I wondered, okay, well, why didn't he get the votes? So he should have.
Well, maybe he didn't get the vote because his story hasn't been really told properly.
Yes.
And that's why I'm asking you, Nancy, or asked you, and you said you would, and you're prepared to list some of the reasons, objectively, as subjective as one can be, in the family.
Okay.
Okay. Why you think Charlie should be a good bet for the Hall of Fame.
Okay. Number one would be how he created a team that won 3 consecutive World Series. I don't know if not having a baseball past is anything to talk about, but he did that. He created that, and that helps Major League Baseball.
Yeah, and he was actively involved in the scouting some of the players, too.
That was the point. Yeah, actively, yes.
Yes, actively involved, whereas a lot of the owners just let the general managers do it, but Charlie was involved in getting the players. So that's a factor.
Exactly.
That's one. Go ahead. What else you got, Nancy?
Nancy, excuse me. I found out from Skip that his name's Pat Friday was one of Charlie's major scouts.
I know Pat. I remember Pat really well. Pat was in the insurance business, and he was Charlie's right-hand person up there. And when Frank Lane was fired, Charlie brought Pat down and said, "You're my GM." And Pat didn't really want that, but he did it because he was also friends with Charlie. And then Dad came in, and I have pictures of Pat, Dad, and Charlie all together. And I remember Pat was at our place quite often, concerned about how long he had to be there, because he went back to the insurance office when the coast was clear, when he could, because he preferred that. But yes, it was actually the 3 of them were together until probably about 65. And
is Mr. Friday still with us?
No, he's deceased. He lived in Indiana, and he's deceased. Yeah. But really nice man. But he never felt comfortable in the baseball position. But he went down there to fill in for Lane because Charlie needed to show some. Well, Charlie was telling the press that anyone could be a GM. I mean, he was lashing out at Lane, and he wanted to show, here, I brought my person in from the insurance company, and he's doing just fine.
Right.
So you know what that was. But Pat went along with it, and did I send you the picture of Dad, Pat, and Charlie? That's what I remember, signing a contract.
Oh no, you didn't.
Oh yeah. Oh. Okay. Yeah. It's a good picture. It's how I remember it. And Charlie's sitting in the middle. Pat looks very serious and concerned, and Dad's looking over the documents. And Charlie is doing the talking and all the PR.
Okay, Nancy, what would be your number 2 reasons for Charlie being in the Hall of Fame? Let's talk about his innovations.
Yes, thank you. Color uniforms, making it exciting. He wanted to make it exciting for fans to watch.
Came up with the DH.
Yes, yeah, the DH and World Series night games.
World Series night games, so people could see the games.
Yes, I remember later.
Kids couldn't.
Yeah, well, later he once said when I suggested night games, I didn't mean every night. He thought it went overboard. But, yes, he came up with, hey, how about some night games for people who work? But
Sure,
no,
well, on the weekends it's not a problem to have a day game for the World Series. But during the week, you're at work and you want to know what's going on, you don't have the TV on.
That's right. That was his another innovation.
Well, again, it's the kids we're trying to cater to so we can get future fans. Mm-hmm. And by making the World Series at night, they don't get to see or hear any of it.
Well, that was during the week.
That's a tragedy from that standpoint.
Well, but the parents buy the tickets.
I know.
Well, for
and anymore, it isn't even the parents that buy the tickets. It's the corporations that buy the tickets.
Now, yes.
The parents can't afford the tickets anymore.
One thing.
Another story.
Yeah. Now,
and the other thing is that Charlie was disruptive because the other owners wanted to keep baseball, quote, pure like it was in the old days. Charlie wanted to make it fun. Instead of being stodgy, he wanted it to be a fun experience, bring your family to the games, and have a good time.
That's what Harvey was about.
That's what it was, and the orange ball or whatever else he had on there.
The orange ball.
And and remember the mustaches. The guys had to wear mustaches. That was fun.
You know what that was about? The mustache was more about, have you heard of the, like, management theories where you try to get your employees to bond? That was meant to try to create some competition among the players. Mm-hmm. It was like a psychological thing. And although I think he didn't mind being their common enemy because that also created the same. But that's what that was, to be fun for the fans and have them watch to see who could grow the best mustache, the handlebar. But Charlie always liked the 1930s barbershop quartets, and that's where that came from. So that taught me that not every man can grow one of those.
Interesting enough, Jerry will tell you that the man that grew the best mustache of all time,
Raleigh Fingers.
I know.
Was rehired by the A's in an executive position. We might have talked about that last week.
Jerry brought that up before I could. Yes.
And Raleigh's gonna be there on the 30th of March with Ricky Henderson and Joe Rudy's going to be there. Reggie Jackson.
Are you going to be there?
Not working that night. That's not my night.
I'm invited to that. I will be.
Yeah.
I will be there, and I will be wearing my green cowboy hat.
Great.
So I know. So people can find me.
The only other green cowboy hat I ever saw was owned by Carl Ivey, who used to work for the A's. Sarge.
I used to wonder how good he would be if we really needed his protection. He was a
little bit older when he worked for the A's, but
he was our bodyguard.
I know he also worked for Al Davis too.
Yeah, and I used to hope that he would be ready if someone came after us.
I think he would be. He was an ex-cop.
Yeah, I know. But he loved that hat.
Oh, did he ever?
I know. No one else wore the hat, but he did. But I guess when I wore mine for the first time, now people expect me to wear it. So,
hey, Nancy and Jerry, I don't mean to underplay or make it seem like we're underplaying 3 World Series in a row, and it was 5 championships, 5 pennants.
5 division champs, yeah.
Right,
that's
division
really
champs.
Difficult, too.
And
that was
3 in a row in the middle, 3 in a row world champions in the championships. That's terrific. That's got to be Charlie's that's the number 1 hitting point. And
absolutely.
If you guys could name the one thing that enabled them to do it? Was it that they were able to make subtle little changes from year to year and keep the nucleus intact?
That's what Kansas City was. It was molding. I mean, Kansas City, to me, it was a lot of promotions, fun, but yet apparently we weren't doing very well. But that was all a part of the building. And the A's remind me of that now, with all the promotions and everything. And you think it sort of gets your mind off of how they're doing, because that's what Kansas City was to me. And then all of a sudden, a big breakout.
Well, the thing about Dave Cavill, Dave Cavill is doing something that a lot of that the A's forgot to do. He's reestablishing the past.
He needs
for
to
years.
be on the cover of Time next.
Yeah. He's trying to make it fun for people to come to the ballpark. Yes. They got the treehouse, and then they got the whatever. They're starting to bring in people for the cheer box, to bring a buck for the game to go sit up in the third balcony, the third deck.
Our petting zoo. That's what that was. Family. Yeah. And
they got the food trucks, and they want families there. When you go to the Giants games over in San Francisco, you don't see a lot of kids. You see a lot of people who have taken the afternoon off to go to a game, a lot of adults, but not a lot of kids. Whereas at the A's, it's always been family friendly. You bring the kids, and it wasn't that expensive in terms of cost that the other teams are charging. To go to a Red Sox game or a Yankee game in New York, you got to bring your credit card and probably $10,000 in the bank to see one game.
I wonder if Charlie did that to make things fun, because we had to build. I mean, it was building, and
well, that was the thing. If you bring the kids become fans, and when they become adults, they bring their kids. And that was the key to success for growing a successful team.
You know what, Jerry, you're right. If there are groups in Kansas City, and I have to say this, they're cult-like, I swear, but they want to find Harvey. They now know they can't, but they were digging for Harvey, thinking he was under the old site of the Muni Stadium. They have this. They remember as children watching the mule and all the fireworks and everything, and they're really into that part of their childhood.
Yeah, that's been phenomenal. And speaking of fireworks, I think you got fireworks on the 30th too, if I'm not mistaken.
Whoa. Okay.
I think they're having it. Yeah, and don't forget April 17th. It's free admission. It's the 50th anniversary. The first game played in Oakland, April 17th. It's actually the 51st season, but in terms of years, it's 50 years since 1968. I mean, it's hard to believe I'm saying 50 years.
We had
I know. Tell me about it, Jerry.
Every home run, we had fireworks.
Oh, really? Oh, that was great. Well, that came out of that was from Bill Beck's playbook in Chicago. He started doing that.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Opening day, 1968. Where were you, Jerry?
I was in Los Angeles. I was working hard, and April 17th, I was probably, I don't think I was working in Santa Monica at that time. I think I was working down in Manhattan Beach. I'm not sure.
Yeah,
but
where were you in 68, opening day?
Actually, in 68.
Coliseum, huh?
Oh, I had to be in Dallas. I was allowed to come out the first day, and then I had to go back to Dallas, and I was just crying terribly because I wanted to be out here. And that's when a year later I learned that Dad gained sole custody of me, and then I was out here.
Okay, so you came out in 69.
Actually, it was early 70. It was winter.
Early 70. Okay.
Yes. And it was like I was here to stay. I was so happy, but I heard the team had moved, and so I was brought out here, and I had to go back the next day. And
okay.
it was.
it had to be hard for you.
Very hard. I wanted to be here, and because I had such fond memories of Kansas City, it was like that had just happened. And I was sort of sad that Kansas City wasn't still there, but out here, it was just amazing to be so close to the water. And but I also wanted to be with what I considered my family, Dad, Charlie,
sure.
team. And so when I came out here, I remember Dad had people come in and see me, like one at a time. I was in the very back in the conference room, and people would come in to see Carl's daughter. And it felt, I was really shy, and I felt like I was on display or something. But people I knew very few people who came out, but the players, some of the players I knew. But like Vita Blue, Reggie, they were new to me.
Yeah, Vita Blue was a rookie in 71.
Yeah. Oh, what a year, though. What a year.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, my gosh. And he was, but and Hot Pants Day, wow.
Hot Pants, I remember. Well, that must have been in 69.
No, that was 71.
71, okay.
I remember that.
God, I look good.
You know, because we had Hot Pants perfume that was, it foamed when it came out, and it crackled like if you rubbed it on your skin. And we had crates of it because that was our boy. To everyone in Hot Pants, you got in free, and you got one of those, the first 5,000. And then I remember.
So I was going to ask, no mention of the Summer of Love?
No.
Well, that was 67. The A's were back in Kansas City.
Yeah, they weren't.
That was 68, the Summer of Love.
And in Texas, I didn't hear about that. I heard there was one pair of hippies in downtown Dallas, but that.
I remember we had just moved. My wife and I had just moved to L.A. and we had gone up. We had dinner up on at the Scandia restaurant on Sunset Boulevard, which was famous at that time. It's since closed. And we're walking around Sunset Boulevard, and all the kids were sitting on just sitting on the sidewalks on the street. All these hippies. It really was. It's ingrained in my brain. And we went, and of course I was wearing a three-piece suit. I was being very, very, very dressed up to go to a nice restaurant. And these kids are wearing jeans and bell bottoms and what have you. But they were nice. They didn't bother anyone. They were just smoking pot and doing LSD, whatever else they were doing in those days. They didn't bother us.
See, when I came out here, Dad was always in a suit. Back then, everyone, it was whatever. My life was the front office and the team. It wasn't what was going on outside. And I didn't even know the Zodiac was active until later, but I do remember seeing headlines with those codes, and I had no idea, but I know I was very safe unless the Zodiac came into the Coliseum or something. I mean, I didn't realize what was going on around me as much until later.
Well, sometimes we don't like to know what's going around us. It's better off not knowing. Ignorance being bliss.
You got it.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, one last thing. Last night on one of the cable, I think it was NBC Sports, they were showing A's classic games, and they showed Dallas Braden's perfect game on Mother's Day in 2010.
Yeah.
And the only other perfect game, and at that time was the 19th perfect game in Major League history, and the only other perfect game at the Coliseum was in 1968 when Catfish Hunter threw a perfect game. And I don't know how many people were in the stands that night, 8,000 or 10,000 people, but if you ask people, there must have been 50,000 people who said they were at the game that night.
Oh, I know.
I think it was Dave Duncan who was the catcher, if I'm not
mistaken.
Dave
Duncan was the catcher, correct.
Wow.
Oh.
It's just, I know.
50 years ago, a perfect game was the first perfect game ever in San Francisco in the Coliseum.
And I remember reading about it in the Green Sheet, which was the Chronicle.
In those days, yeah.
It was really green.
Yeah.
The sports section was green. And I read about that game at the barbershop in Travis Air Force Base. they made me go in for my second haircut. The first one wasn't short enough for them, like it mattered how short my hair was. And I had to go back, so I sat there and I read about the A's, and that was 50 years ago, my God.
50 years ago, exactly right. So you were in the Air Force in 1968, huh?
From 65 to February of 69.
Oh, you did 4 years.
3 years, 9 months. They gave me an early out because they were cutting back the troops, and more because I didn't have enough time to be sent anywhere. And,
it was interesting. We were up to our eyeballs in Vietnam in that period of time.
Right, but
and you were very fortunate not to go.
Before I qualified to go, which I put off as long as I possibly could, because I wouldn't have wanted to go. There was a war going on, and I was stationed halfway between Sacramento and San Francisco, and I thought that was pretty cool. So I got out in 69 and stayed in California.
Fantastic. Great story.
Yeah.
By the way, I wanted to mention, last week I mentioned a picture I had of Jack Benny in the middle, standing, about to throw the first pitch, and he's in the middle of Charlie and Charlie Jr. I've learned that Charlie Jr. passed.
Oh.
Yeah.
So sorry to hear that. That's your cousin.
Yes, he was the oldest.
I just got a bit of news regarding the chaos in Washington today. Trump has replaced H.R. McMaster with John Bolton as his national security advisor. So you can think about that.
By the way, Robert Mueller was once in front of our house, parked in front of our house.
Oh, really? No kidding.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, he was here doing something before he became FBI director. By the way, before we went on the air, Nancy had brought up the fact why we haven't gone to India to get some pitching prospects. The movie was called $1 Million Arm, and it was done in 2014, and it was produced by Walt Disney Pictures and on a screenplay written by Thomas McCarthy. And the film was based on the true stories of baseball pitchers Rinku Singh and Dinesh Patel, who were discovered by sports agent J.B. Bernstein. The film stars John Hamm as J.B. Bernstein and Bill Paxton, the late Bill Paxton, as pitching coach Tom House. And House wasn't House a broadcaster with the Rangers?
Well, Tom House was in the bullpen when Henry Aaron hit the home run.
Right.
He was a relief pitcher with Atlanta, and he caught the pitcher. He caught the
ball.
Yeah. And he was a pitching guru, and he probably went over there.
And how's your trivia? Who was the pitcher that threw the ball that Aaron hit for 715?
Al
you remember?
Downing,
very good knowledge.
Downing, who graced these microphones with a terrific interview. He was a gentleman.
There you go.
Yeah. What can I say?
I think there's a lot of talent over there for baseball.
One more thing. Next week, opening day is on Thursday when we do our podcast. Can we move it to Wednesday?
Of course. Except Wednesday at 3, Wednesday at 2 would be great.
Wednesday at 2. I'll put it on my calendar.
Okay,
and it's opening day, or is it a night game?
It's a day game on Thursday. And then they have the night. They have opening day on. They have the opening day game on Thursday and the opening day night game on Friday. And Friday is when they're going to have the festivities.
Day baseball. If I'm going to go to one of them, it'll be the day game. And there's a good chance that I will now that we've moved this around. And so, Nancy, is that good for you next Wednesday at 2 o'clock?
Yes.
Good deal.
We
were all happy. Nancy covered the number 1, 2, 3, and 4 reasons why Charlie should be in the
I
hall.
have more for later.
Your assignment, Nancy, is to have Dave Cahill or tell him about our plans, have him back us up, maybe give us a night to, Charlie Finley Hall of Fame, blah, blah, blah night or whatever you want to do. You guys are the publicity people. You know how to get along with people. I'd find a way of accidentally insulting him.
That's not a good way to win friends and influence people.
Yeah, right. I've been known to say, "Oh, sorry about your wife."
Charlie could rub people the wrong way without meaning to. Also, I mean.
Me to follow him up for publicity. I rub people the wrong way. They don't even know I exist yet, but something's bothering them. They may meet me later on in the day. But that aside, we'll
fine.
get. For the day.
Fine.
Keep me around one more day. One more podcast, Nancy.
You.
All right, that's all I ask.
Sweet.
Okay, guys. Thank you. It was fun as usual.
Next Wednesday at 2.
It was great.
Next Wednesday at 2. And Jerry.
Yes, sir.
If the A's finish 2 games over 500 this year, I will not only buy you lunch at Jolio's, I'll buy you the whole restaurant. How about that? They may want $100 down. We may have to split that going in, but we'll try, huh?
Yeah, well, we're being optimistic.
I admire your optimism. I just want baseball to be fun, and it'll be fun if we could look forward to a new stadium.
Oh, that'd be
out there, and won't it be great when people will come in and keep the ball, the money ball rolling, as it were, where you have revenue coming in, and you could spend that revenue on scouting and player development and signing guys and what have you, and
money /
and
winning
that
ball.
brings in more players.
Yeah.
And hopefully, for me, as far as I'm concerned, even though I live much closer, I could literally walk if I wanted to from Alameda to the stadium, and have and will again someday. I would like to see it at Howard Terminal, overlooking the most beautiful stadium to date, and we could have another gem they could look back at each other. That would be cool. All these years, how many times both teams were this close to moving?
The Giants were on their way to Toronto or Tampa Bay or Denver or wherever, and the A's had threatened. Their future here was in doubt, for many years.
Last Thursday.
Yeah, but fortunately, they got rid of the people who wanted to go down to Silicon Valley, because that's where the money was, or they perceived that's where the money was. And
the Giants, it wasn't their choice.
Mm-hmm.
They wanted to go where the money was, but the Giants claimed territorial rights. Now, that's something that can be talked about on 12 different podcasts. We will save that, and we'll go back in the history of the two ball clubs and how crazy that ruling was, and how things are what they are because of it.
Sure.
It still hasn't been settled, even though Oakland has already lost the Raiders. They've dug the hole already, so that's out of the barn. That ain't coming back. And you got the Warriors, who are already looking to build in San Francisco. You would think they would have gone head over heels to make the A's happy at this point. To not make it rocky. Remember, they're not asking the city to help, are they? They're building this like the Giants did with their money.
They would like excitement and backing it, just for what they
You know what? just having a ballpark in San Francisco did for that neighborhood, the rejuvenation of South of Market area, the restaurants, the whole, all of it, the
Oakland
bars.
Should give them a parade or something, just show excitement. Or the pony. You know what I'm saying.
So,
absolutely.
But I think Libby Shafts wants to keep the team. It's a question of where. I'd be happy if they stayed. They could play at the old Coliseum thing. It'd be nice. You could make one. I don't know what you do with how they do it. You build it and then make the parking lot at the old stadium or whatever. However they do it would be nice. Just let them stay and have it within 2 or 3 years. It doesn't have to be 5, 6 years. That's ridiculous.
Be happy they are staying. They say their aim is to stay.
Yeah. Was it you, Nancy, was telling me how little time that it took to build the stadium in Kansas City?
Oh, yeah, 90 days.
90 days, wow.
No, it makes you wonder how well it was built.
Well, I have an anecdote for you guys, and it's not really baseball related, but we had dinner Sunday night with a friend of mine he's a PhD in physics, and he worked he was the head of scientific development for Hewlett Packard. And he was in Singapore, and he would go there 3 times a year, and he had an idea to build something in Singapore. And the next, it was his last trip to Singapore. He gave him this idea. And then a few months later, he asked, what did they do about it? Well, they made a decision on it the next day, and because they had a very strong leader, they decided they would build it. They had 3 shifts of 3,000 people working each shift, so 9,000 people working, and they had it built in 30 days.
Wow.
Because they made up their mind they wanted to do it. It's a good idea, and they acted on it. And that's what they...
way overpass the time that...
So they can't do that here.
Mm-hmm.
Because it'll take them 2 years to make a decision. Then you have to have an environmental impact report, all the studies done.
I don't see why they can't be concurrent with...
the effect on the seabirds in the estuary, the fish in the estuary.
So have the unions to work with, too.
Everything.
Yeah.
Oh, God. Well...
Kansas City probably didn't.
But they did it in Kansas City because they made a decision that they wanted it, and they did it. And so once the city and the A's get together and they find the site and they make the decision, it should be full steam ahead.
Oh, yeah. And they should just be so thankful.
Yeah.
I know.
I'm ready for wherever they go.
Yeah. Well, I like that outlook.
Let's do it.
Okay.
Let's keep it positive. Let's keep it positive.
Yes.
Except when we need realism. Then let's keep it realistic. Let's keep it realistic.
There you go.
All right, guys. Thank you. Can't wait for next week.
Yes.
Talk to Dave. Get him going on it. And we'll get Charlie O in the Hall of Fame.
And Bruce Marcuson. You got to contact Bruce Marcuson, too.
I will do that. So our assignments...
Tell him I'm on your podcast.
Pardon me?
Tell him I'm on your podcast.
I will indeed.
Yeah.
I will indeed, Nancy. Thank you very much. Nancy Finley, Jerry Feitelberg, I'm Ralph Tyko, Comfortably Zoned Radio Network. Adios, everybody.
Thank you.
Okay. Bye-bye.